My name is not important. By KB Hurst. There are the lies we tell others, and then there are the lies that we tell ourselves. Is there a God? Is there a devil? Is what you read in the Bible true? I, like so many other human beings on this planet, have asked myself these questions thousands of times. On the off chance there is a devil, I've always tried to live my life accordingly to the moral code of the good book. I was a good member of society. I volunteered at a nursing home. I went to animal shelters and walked dogs, and I donated to multiple charities. I gave blood to the Red Cross, and when I was 19, I spent time working for Habitat for Humanity. It's a little embarrassing, but I stayed a virgin till I married my boyfriend, and we had a son. I took my son to church, and my husband and I remained active members. We were the perfect family, by all accounts. Then one day, I was working in the yard and fell over from a heart attack. I was rushed to the hospital, and my husband and young son watched the paramedics wheel me into the ER and try to save my young life. I was but 35, not too young for a heart attack, but I had been a healthy woman. I ran for exercise. I ate healthy and watched my weight. I didn't smoke, drink, and never did a drug in my life except for Tylenol. So how was it I was lying on a table with a team of doctors and nurses trying to bring me back to life? I was in that room for how long I cannot say. What I do recall is standing by my own body, watching myself turn blue and then to white as they worked on me. The room began to become illuminated, and in the doorway, behind where my son and husband stood, was a tall figure wearing all black. I was drawn to him immediately. He had dark eyes, black hair, and he was very handsome. I seemed to motion directly at him, and so he spoke to me telepathically to come toward him. I followed, and in a blink of an eye, I was in a dark room. I never knew death could be so ominous and plain at the same time. I looked around the room, and the man that drew me into it had disappeared. It was cold, that much I remember, and the lack of any form of light coming in made it hard to see around me. I stood waiting for someone that I felt I knew, yet had never met. The dark-eyed man came back in, and in a formal manner, he held out his hand, and he bowed. "He is ready for you now, Clara." I followed the man into the stone room that had a body of water in the center, and the water did not move, nor were there waves or any trickles of any other type of movement. There was no air. It was stagnant, cold, dark. There was a bridge made of dark stone that connected the room I was in to a man sitting at the other end of the room on a dark throne. I was led down the hallway and made to stand in front of the man in the throne-like chair. Bluish fog rose up from the still water as I passed it. I could faintly hear screams of someone or something from inside it, and it made me shiver. "Clara, do you want me to call you by that name?" asked the tall figure on the throne. He wore a white suit and had white hair and tan skin. There was a faint charring smell as I approached him, and the heat coming off of him was making me very uncomfortable. It's my name," I said, still perplexed as to where I was and to whom I was speaking to. "You died, Clara." I stood looking at him as he sat up tall in his seat, puffing on a cigar. I died? I looked up at him, and the utter feeling of complete and utter despair was overwhelming. Do you know where you are? He asked, his voice booming as he looked down at me with his dark eyes. I wasn't sure who he was. He had not given me his name, and I was not thinking maybe this was the face of God. But I was wrong. This was not God. He puffed on his cigar, blowing smoke into little red rings above my head. You're in hell, he smirked. I stood in horror, trying to comprehend what he was saying. How can I be here after all the things I had done in my life to be a good person? I had struggled against all odds to become the sort of person God wanted me to be. I hung my head as the tears began to fall from my eyes. This felt like a nightmare, like some horror movie, only I could smell the smoke and I could feel the heat coming from his body. You lived a righteous and clean existence, baby, but you never drank, you never gambled, you didn't commit murder. You never even told anything more than a white lie, and yet, still, here you are. I looked at him, hoping to understand. It was like he was reading my mind. You're pitying yourself now. I can see your head. It's wheeling and dealing all the probabilities of how you came to have such unsavory luck. Well, it's simple. Did you ever think mean thoughts about others? Get frustrated at people when someone cut you off in traffic? Maybe a guy you liked asked out your best friend in the 7th grade? Maybe for a moment, when your husband had that indiscretion with his coworker, you did the godly thing and forgave him. You figured you had to be the bigger person after all. It was a one-time thing, a simple mistake. But deep inside, if thoughts could kill, she'd be a dead woman, and he'd have been his balls nailed to a stake. He stood up then, walking toward the spot I stood at, and continued. Small stuff, thoughts, aren't they? You see, Clara, thoughts aren't small stuff. Thoughts can lead to an entire government's being taken down. They can lead to murder just with one small jealous thought. In that blink of an eye, entire worlds can be brought down. What are you trying to say? I asked, shaking now in fear of this man. What am I trying to say? You ask as simply as a child. And Clara, we both know you are no simple, innocent child. Who are you? Why am I here? I was getting angry now. My name is not important. You already know my face, and yet we've never met. Not formally, anyway. He was close to me now, with every word. His breath was upon my face. It burned like a hot flame over coal. Clara, you and every other human being on earth have the wrong idea about life. You were good, and no God in the entire universe could ever disagree with that. Not even me. But you are talking of this life. What about all the other parallel lives you live? You forgot about those. There is more than one universe, more than one version of you, and they are not all good. There are a few that would put me to shame, I have to say. With this, he let out a large, bellowing laugh. Ah, what do you mean? What lives? I only lived this one. Thoughts are things, my child of darkness. Every thought you have becomes something one of your other selves have done. And there are many multiverses and many different versions of you, Clara. He continued to laugh heartily, as he puffed on his cigar. He was looking at me like he was so proud of me, like he almost celebrated me and my existence. I tried to grasp the enormity of what he was saying. Multiverses. Am I living in them all simultaneously? It sounded like something you'd read about or watch on the Science Channel. You still don't believe me, do you? He put down his cigar, stood up, and slowly walked over to me, looking deeply into my eyes, and I could see everything he could. Suddenly, I could see every version of myself, and there were many versions of myself I cared not to see. There was a version of myself stabbing a guy I caught cheating, another version of myself eating till I was fat, another of myself caring for a sick child, another of me on a motorcycle with tattoos. There were so many versions, and more of me outweighed the good I had achieved in all of my many lives. How could this be? I was entranced as he showed me what my soul is everywhere and takes many forms all at once. And we all died. This is your fate, he said, pointing, the still water looking down. I could see all the versions of myself and others trying to escape the still watery cage, which lit up suddenly. I could see fire behind them and a cold, dark sky behind as they screamed up at me. No, I can't. I screamed, losing my balance. He caught me just then, and as I could feel his hands burning my neck like a brand as he tried to keep me from falling. But I hit the ground, and when I awoke, I was in the hospital again. My son and my husband were sitting next to me. I took a deep breath. I felt joy I had never felt in my entire existence. Clara, you're okay. Oh my God, you were in a coma for 3 days. My husband grabbed my hand and my son hugged my arm. 3 days, and it had seemed like only moments in the time and space I was in. I'm sorry I scared you, I said to them. My thoughts went to the man and those poor souls in that hell. It all had to be a dream, and I hoped I would never see that face again. My husband leaned in for a kiss, and he touched the back of my neck and screamed. There was a sharp burning sensation on the back of my neck. When my husband called for the nurses, one of them came rushing in. I told her my neck was burning, and she lifted up my hair, and just beneath my hairline was a brand in the shape of a handprint.